gon' get your ass popped, motherfucker, don't stop, motherfucker. Motherfucker, move, motherfucker, move. Motherfucker, move, motherfucker, move. You gon' get your ass popped, motherfucker, don't stop, motherfucker.
Vision from game, give a fuck about a damn. Hurt the feathers hit my pocket, trying to shut my city down. Fuck it, I'm gone. Ain't this sitting up in the pen. Gotta catch me in the wing and let me motherfucking sing. Tonight I got a fly.
Think you need a full suit of armor and a $500 sword to start HEMA? Think again. When I started training Longsword, I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and I definitely looked cringe doing it. But showing up, being awkward and unsure was the moment that everything started to change for me. I'm going to exactly show you how you can start practicing historical European martial arts even if you've never held a sword, worked out or trained before. You'll learn the basic anatomy of a longsword, the gear you actually need. Spoiler, it's not expensive. And these solo drills that got me to break through my fear, self-doubt and inaction. This is your first step to change your screen addiction to real-life movement, and it starts today, even if all you have is a stick. Hi, my name is Michael, and my mission is to help young guys ditch their own video game obsessions and start their own sword fighting journey. I started completely solo, with no plan, no coach, just me, my blade and my curiosity. And I struggled with low self-esteem, and I feared of looking stupid. But over time, solo practice gave me the courage and confidence to walk into a real HEMA club, and that starting point, no matter how sloppy it was the turning point. You have to start ugly. The most honest truth about training HEMA solo is that no one, or most people, most beginners never start their own journey because they are afraid of looking stupid. Of course they will. Of course they will look stupid. That's the whole fucking point of it. You have to start. That's the same thing when you're downloading and launching the new game you bought on Steam this summer sale. Like, you don't know anything about it. You just heard the trailer, you just saw it, and you think, wow, what a cool game, and you're launching it. And the first thing that you have to do is get used to all of the controls inside of it. That's the same fucking thing with the historical fencing. You have to go out, feel weak, feel stupid, like you're a level 1 crook in some fucking online video game. When I went out to train in the park, I always felt embarrassed. I always felt like I was watched with different faces from the people that are walking nearby. But I did it anyway. To people that already started doing this, my heart really goes to you, because this is not easy. And I know it. Because I went through this, and I just want you to start. I just want to give you a green light for you to start doing anything with a fucking stick. Bro, do I really need to tell you this? You can do anything outside of your comfort zone. And of course it will feel hard. That's the fucking point. You're probably gonna look funny. And I looked funny when I was starting it. But then I started to like it. I was way more excited with each solo training that I did, because I already got used to handling my sword, gripping the hilt, and swinging it around, even if it was unrefined and it was like without any technique. My lesson to you is that you don't have to feel ready to begin. You have to begin to feel ready. Record yourself if you want, but please, I beg you, don't judge it. Looking awkward is part of the process. You have to just start anyway. Like, every real warrior starts ugly. Okay, now I don't need a stick, I need a weapon to show you. Know your weapon. So, the longsword basics. I will show you the anatomy of my longsword here. So, you have more confidence and more self-respect when you're trying to solo drill by yourself. So, it has a blade, it has a crossguard, it has a hilt, and it has a pommel at the end. So, starting with a blade. The blade is made to thrust your opponent and cut with both edges. So, most of the swords are created for thrusting with a point and to cut with both edges, sharpened of course. But this one is called a Federschwert from German, in short feather, and it's made to safely spar in HEMA. It's a perfect mimic for a real longsword. The only difference that we can already see is that feather here has a thinner blade than a longsword. It's made to safely thrust our opponent, of course in protective gear, because if I just thrust someone without it or like cut him, it will hurt because it's a steel. That's why the point on the feather is blunt for safer thrusting. I will show you that when I try to thrust, the blade starts to flex. The real longsword wouldn't flex if I tried to stab someone. So the blade usually would be sharpened onto both edges. Of course, this one is blunt for safety reasons, because it's a training tool, it's not a real weapon. You can cut with both of these edges. But there's a difference. There's a concept I want to teach you that will help you down the line. Is that there's a true edge and there's a false edge. And the difference between them is the way you're holding your sword right now. If you're holding sword like here, just like me, with my dominant right hand, if I hold it like this, the true edge is the one that faces my opponent, and the false edge is the one that faces me. But if I switch my grip, if I turn my sword around, then what do you think changed? Nothing much, because true edge is always the one that faces your opponent if you're holding the sword like this, and the false one faces you. Of course, it always depends, because you don't have to always grip your sword like this before you. Any longsword fencer turns their longsword a bit to the side, so probably like this, because there is a crossguard that is helpful for protecting our hands from the blade of our opponent. Also, the blade is made to parry our opponent, and in order to parry your opponent, you have to catch his blade with your edge. Yeah. Next in line is the crossguard. The crossguard, of course, differs between longswords as well. It can be wider, it can be shorter, it can be bigger, it can be smaller. But the point stays the same, that it's made to protect your hands. It's made only to catch your opponent's blade when you're trying to parry him with an edge of your blade. So, an example, when my opponent tries to strike me from here, Then I block with my true edge, and his blade would probably come down on my crossguard, and that keeps my hands safe. Of course, not always, because I have to pivot my longsword to catch his blade. Next in line is the hilt. The hilt, of course, just like as a crossguard, differs between longswords and swords in general. But usually if you have a longer hilt, it gives you more control over your weapon. That's because if you have more free space between your hands on a hilt, then you have more leverage with just only your hands, without moving your arms or shoulders. I will show you. As you could see, I used only the leverage of my hilt. And of course, it's always easier to handle one object in both hands with more control. And the last thing, the pommel. The pommel is made to balance out your sword. Around here is the balance of this feather, and it gives me more structure and more speed to my actions with a longsword. Because a longsword is fundamentally a precision weapon. It's not a blunt, heavy weapon for smashing. So it's not like a warhammer or battle axe. It's a precision weapon that requires strength, skill, technique, and of course precision. Grab anything that is sword-shaped, start feeling it, respect it, and move it. Or grab anything that is sturdy and straight, even a broomstick will do. Next, I will show you 3 fundamental solo drills that you can do even today. And the first one doesn't even require an object in your hands. The first drill is made to practice your footwork, because most beginners doesn't know how to move their body. It doesn't even mean how to slash their swords, how to hold it. They just don't have the awareness of their body. The first thing I have to explain to you is the fencing stance. Fencing stance requires you to stand straight, turn your non-dominant rear leg to the left up to 90 degrees, move your dominant right hand forward, place your right dominant leg forward, and keep 1.5 free space between your feet, and keep a bit low. That's the most basic fencing stance that is used throughout Olympic fencing, but historical fencing as well. That stance gives you a lot of potential movement, because you're already sitting a little on your knees, and from this position you can already do lots of stuff, like jumping, because you're already flexing on your knees, right? You can jump, you can move forward, you can move backwards. But for now, I will show you how to advance and retreat with a fencing step. The most common fencing step from fencing position is that you start with your dominant forward foot and you place it on your heel. Then you move your center of weight and you come around with your rear foot. And the thing you have to remember is that you have to keep the same distance that you started in the fencing stance. So if I do an advance fencing step, start in a fencing stand, and I end in a fencing stand, that gives me a lot of control in my movement. And how to retreat? To retreat, you have to start with your rear foot first, and you have to scout ahead with your fingers for potential objects like leaves, sticks, or the wall behind you. So you scout ahead and you move your center of weight on this knee, and you come out and you place your main foot closer. That's basically it. So practice footwork with a series of advancing and retreating steps. Repeat it at least 15 times per set. The second solo drill is way more exciting than the first one, but you have to be honest with me that footwork is really important. Like, you can't go wrong with teaching your legs how to behave. The next one is guard transitions. What is a guard? The guard is basically a current position of your sword in relation to you and how you hold it. The guard can be this, it can be this, all of these were guards, but I will teach you 3 basic guards that you can already transition between. So the first one is posta breve, or the short guard. It looks like this. The other one is posta longa, or the long guard. And the last one is posta di donna, so the ladies guard. And in this basic drill, I want you to flow between these 3 basic guards. So the posta breve, the short guard, the ladies guard, the posta di donna, and posta longa, so the long guard. So the third and the last solo drill I want to show you is a basic cut transitions. What I want you to do is imagine an X before you, on the height of your shoulders. When you're standing in your fencing stance, on the height of your shoulders there's an X, of course in the center line before you. And we'll start from your main side. If you're right-handed, so the main hand is placed on your cross guard, then start from your right. If you're lefty, then from the left. And do the same as me. Keep in mind when you do that to edge align your true edge to your cut. So you don't want to hit with a flat of your blade, but with a edge. And the other thing I want to mention is I want you to think about strengthening your arms at the potential contact of your blade on your opponent. So if you're cutting, that's the point, that's the position of your sword that should be edge aligned to your cut. Of course, it's always easier to edge align at the start of your movement, at the start of your cutting motion. Do it very slowly and with precision. Next in line is beginner friendly gear, or the gear you don't really need that much at the beginning of your journey, but it will be helpful down the line. So the first beginner friendly gear I want to show you is the foam sword named Go Now. It's made for, just like the name says, for Go Now sparrings with someone, but they need, you and your partner should have fencing mask for head protection. It's an ideal starting point for your sparring matches, because you don't need an expensive fencing gear like jackets, pants or anything else. You only just need the foam sword and the fencing mask. Of course, when you're sparring with a partner on these foam swords, on this Go Now, don't do thrusts, please, because it's the one thing that you shouldn't do if you don't have full gear on you. These swords are not really safe for thrusting your opponent, because they don't flex. When you're fighting with someone, only do cuts. And the second thing you should get is a fencing mask. Any fencing mask, even a used one, if it fits on your head and it stays on your head, then you're already geared up for your first sparring. Getting hit with a Go Now swords doesn't do me much. Of course, it's not comfortable for me to get hit on the head, but it lets you and your opponent not to fear striking the other person in the head. But if you're only starting out by your own, then on a budget, just grab a stick. Like really, grab a stick and start swinging it just like I told you to. Watch out only for spiky bits, but you'll figure it out. My tip for you is you stop waiting for gear. Don't wait for confidence, just start sweating. Grab a stick and swing it around for 10 minutes. If you're doing it already, then you're winning. If you've been thinking about starting HEMA, but you've always found an excuse, this is your green light. You don't need to be strong, skilled or confident to begin. You just need to move. And if you're ready to go deeper, then check the link to my beginner HEMA course and private community. We're all on the same path. And remember, always take the initiative.